the learner will, with reference to MARPOL Annex 1, be aware of the additional types of operational discharges of oily mixtures that are allowed from oil tankers and the restrictions placed on them. Be aware of the additional types of accidental discharges of oil that may occur from oil tankers and the measures in place to minimize them. Oil tankers make additional types of operational discharges of oily mixtures when it is necessary to dispose of water which has been mixed with oil cargo. This will normally occur when the cargo tanks need to be cleaned or ballasted. Annex 1 requires most crude oil tankers to be fitted with crude oil washing systems, so water washing is used as little as possible. Even on a crude oil tanker, water washing of cargo tanks will be necessary sometimes. Annex 1 requires oil tankers to be provided with at least one slop tank to allow collection of tank washing water, and to allow the oily mixture to settle out before the clean water is discharged overboard. The discharge criteria for tank washings are different to those for machinery space bilge water. Within a special area, no discharges of oil from the cargo area are allowed. Outside special areas, MARPOL has conditions that must be satisfied. These require the ship to be on passage, be a minimum distance from land, limit the rate of oil discharge, and the total amount of oil to be a small proportion of the cargo loaded. The rate of discharge of oil and the total quantity discharged are measured using Oil Discharge Monitoring Equipment, ODME. In the event of the oil content exceeding a MARPOL limit, or the ODME failing, the overboard discharge will be stopped automatically. As a double check, oil-contaminated water from cargo tank areas is led to the open deck or to the ship's side above the waterline so that it can be visually checked for oil traces. Most crude oil tankers are required to be designed to minimize oil retention, and to have the means to drain pump and line residues so they can be discharged ashore or to a ship's tank. Sometimes the residues can be mixed with the next cargo. Otherwise, they will need to be discharged to shore reception facilities. A special small diameter line is provided to allow the residues to be discharged ashore. Most tankers are required to have segregated ballast tanks and pipelines, so that ballast and cargo do not mix. An Oil Record Book Part 2, Cargo/Ballast Operations, must be completed each time any of the cargo or ballast operations listed in the front take place. The ODME is fitted with a recording device to provide a continuous record of the discharge. Accidental discharges of oil may occur from oil tankers, such as spills during loading and discharge of cargo, especially during ship-to-ship operations, oil leakage following collision or grounding, cargo tank leakage, and leaks following other casualties, such as fire or explosion, hull failure, excessive list, containment system failure, submergence or foundering, wrecking or stranding. Oil transfer spills on tankers are potentially much more serious than on other types of ships, and Annex 1 deals with both by requiring that a SOPEP is available on board. As described in the previous chapter, the SOPEP will provide directions on the immediate actions to take and contact details for the local authorities. A new chapter has been added to Annex 1 to regulate the increasing use of STS operations. Oil tankers involved in STS operations have to carry an approved plan describing how to conduct STS operations. A qualified person should be in overall advisory control of STS operations. Oil tankers have to have ballast or void tanks in a protective location outboard of the cargo to provide a measure of protection in the event of collision. Most tankers are now required to have a double hull, which also gives protection to the cargo from grounding. Carriage of heavy oils is now only allowed in double hull tankers. There are rules to improve the chances of the ship remaining afloat and stable following damage to a space. Having tanks in protective locations also means that oil from a cargo tank may leak into a normally oil-free ballast tank, rather than directly into the sea. There is then a chance that the oil will be discharged with the ballast into the sea. The discharge of ballast water from cargo tank areas is required to be above the waterline, unless the surface of the ballast has been examined visually immediately before the discharge, to ensure that no contamination with oil has taken place. Any ballast found to be dirty must be treated as if it were tank washings. To minimize pollution from other casualties, there are rules requiring technical assistance to be available ashore. But the SOPEP contains the necessary immediate actions. We have now reached the end of this chapter on MARPOL Annex 1 as it applies to oil tankers. We have considered the likely sources of operational and of accidental pollution from oil tankers, and how Annex 1 tries to prevent environmental damage from both sources. Before moving on to the next chapter, you should complete the following self-test questions to check what you have learnt in this chapter.